style. We just kind of go with the flow, no
Yeah,
matter what happens. So
gotta roll with the punches for sure.
yeah. Well, Diesel, it's good to see you. I was just giving current viewers or eventual viewers a little bit of a prologue of how we met, back at Homeland, and how we traveled to New York, and how you've also traveled and done a lot of teaching and competing. But I want to give you the opportunity just to introduce yourself. So feel free to tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for having me, man. And
It's all good.
so yeah, my name that I think my mom and dad gave me is Daniel Norwood, but my dad's name is D Soul. I'm typically known as a popper. I like to broaden it by saying movement artist, but yeah, I am currently on quarantine like most people. I was supposed to be in Argentina
Okay.
at this point teaching. And yeah, so typically I teach workshops here in LA, and I also teach at different places around the world. And I'm kind of a street artist, so I love to street perform. I go to battles, competitions, and
Hmm.
either participate or judge. And yeah, now I'm also a legal assistant at the moment, so
Okay.
I got a little balance of both worlds. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super interested in psychology, so I also graduated with a degree in psychology and a minor in religious studies from Cal State Northridge. And
Okay.
yeah, so it kind of uh, my whole life it seems like a social psychology experiment.
I think that's true of many of us, so you're not alone.
For
But
sure.
I think one of the things that I've always enjoyed hanging out with you, seeing you at events, talking one-on-one, I really appreciate there's like so many dimensions to who you are and your interests, just like you're talking about psychology. And I know that you also study like human anatomy a lot. You study a lot of philosophy and, perception. And I think that's really useful as an artist, especially as a movement artist. But you were also mentioning about how you were hoping to be in Argentina right now, but obviously with the quarantine, COVID-19, that's changing. And I wanted to ask you, like, obviously that's a big change that happened, not being able to go. But from your observation, like, how is your art form changing? How is the dance movement community being affected by all of this? Especially for people who may not be involved in those communities, how would you paint that picture for them?
Well, yeah, man. I think the entertainment industry in general right now is really hurting from a lot of this. The ability not to gather in groups when this culture that I'm a part of is really community based. So when it comes to travel, a lot of dancers they make their living off the ability to travel and teach, and also to teach workshops just in their local community. So all that's come to a halt, and yeah, I think it's kind of um, worrisome to think about the future as far as when will we be able to gather again.
Mm.
Yeah, so I had a trip to Argentina planned, like as far as to teach, but also to take my dream vacation to
Right.
Patagonia. So
Yeah.
that was all now canceled, and then right after that, I was supposed to go to India for the first time and teach there,
Mm.
and that was supposed to be in mid-May, but that's also been canceled. So the landscape of things has changed quite a bit,
Mm.
and it seems like the dance community is really trying to shift to the online world. They're having like online dance competitions and things like that, but it's there's a certain thing that you really miss when it's like you're in the essence and you're in the whole environment of everything. The DJ playing the music,
Right.
the audience is real live. You get energy from uh, the people that surround you. Your friends, um, the cheering. If I'm dancing for a screen, it's not necessarily getting the feedback that we're normally used to as dancers. So
Yeah, no, I think you hit on a really great point that I think that dancing as we know it is so communal, it's so visceral, and it's something that it's kind of I was kind of reminded about like how in the mid to late 2000s, YouTube became really popular, right? And we saw a lot of dancers get exposed to dance culture or street dance culture through YouTube at first, and then some people kind of went away, but some people also got involved with in-person community. And I'm curious to think, what do you think might happen now that okay, we're in this quarantine for a short amount of time. People are teaching on Zoom. They're having competitions, but eventually we're going to get back. We're going to come together again. And
Yeah.
what do you think that period will be? Not necessarily like how long will it be, but what do you envision the culture to be like at that time, and like how will it be different in your eyes?
Well, this quarantine's been quite a blessing in disguise for me, in a couple ways. Like, one is I haven't been able to go to the office for my normal job, so I have all this time to really devote to the craft again. Uh, where I was spending time before, where I would be before and after work, and really squeezing in the practice. When I think about creatively, it actually takes time to sit with yourself in what might look like boredom to some. In a creative, it's more like incubation. So this is the first time I felt like I really had some time to incubate these ideas and put them into play. Also, it's forced me to learn online. So
Mm.
the ability to take these classes online, I've learned a ton of house that I recently became obsessed with, and then also crump. So
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it's exposed me to different things, and not seeing others is also giving me a chance to really kind of integrate it into my own self, like, and really try and figure out how I want to do it, or how it feels on my body without any outside or external influence.
Mm.
So when it comes to like the future of what I think it might look like after all of this, um, it's tough, because I think there's a lot when you think about a community that has a limited amount of investment and money in it already. You think about bringing and flying international dancers out as an organizer for an event. You might want to bring somebody out. It becomes like, well, they're teaching online, so you might as well just take the class online. Maybe we don't need to spend thousands of dollars to bring them all the way out.
Mm.
And I think that might cross people's minds. And I think also what I hope happens is when we are able to come together, I think it's gonna be a lot more magical. I think it's gonna be a lot more. There's gonna be a lot more fire. There's gonna be a lot more enjoyment. That's my
Mm.
hope. That's
Mm.
my, and I think it's likely that it would be like that. I can't imagine what it's gonna be like my first cipher with friends again.
Yeah, well, I
So
hope my hope is when the ciphers come back together, it's not going to be like 6 feet apart. I hope
yeah,
that we're all going to be like together. It can be the way that it was, back to back, shoulder to shoulder. We're all in it. I think you hit on something really interesting, which I'm not quite sure if a lot of people think of this time of quarantine as a time of reflection. Because you're talking about like how you're finding yourself, okay, there's a lot of time that I have right now, even as you're doing your other work, taking care of other responsibilities, but there's time to really like dig deep, look into yourself. You're looking to build new skills, develop new sensitivities, and I think that's kind of rare, in our day and age where there's a lot of social media, a lot of distraction. Even now, when we're at home, I know that a lot of people are turning to like binging on Netflix or on social media, YouTube. But this is also like a great time just to reflect and like still, the inner self, go deeper. And I want to, kind of ask you about that. You kind of already talked about it, but do you feel like that's something that well, what is that process? I'll ask you this. What does that process look like for you to just reflect? I know that can be different on different things, but
yeah.
some people, if they're not dancers, maybe they journal. Some people who are musicians, maybe they jam late at night, just by themselves. For yourself, what is this like inner reflection looking like for you?
Yeah. It, for me, it's I've created a structure for myself. When I'm without structure, I I feel lost in a lot of ways. So I started to really like, I took a calendar. Like I always have a calendar because I feel like my mind is always floating into other dimensions and
Right.
space, and like really thinking about other things or thinking about an idea. Or so what it looks like physically is me just opening up a calendar and really making a detailed schedule of like every day, but not necessarily like by time. I just write things I want to accomplish with a box next to them, so I get the satisfaction of just checking that box off. And by the end of the day, all the stuff's done. And so I make them little small goals so I don't feel overwhelmed. And so, like, I might say, okay, 20 minutes of house dance, 20 minutes of crump, and then that's the morning like must, right? So then after that, it's like anything that you want to explore, that's extra credit.
Mm.
And so I give myself room for extra credit. So after I do it, I'll write it down, make a box, and check it off just to show that I did it. So it's just like this self-rewarding thing, but also making little goals that like maybe I don't really want to do, like, or things that I would procrastinate on, like maybe like 20 minutes of reading, which is hard to do, right? Or, 20 minutes of Spanish practice, things like that, where they're not something that I really want to do, but I know I got to do them. So I put those in there as well. So that's been working for me.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I love what you said about giving yourself structure. Like I find, like myself, I'm a person that really likes structure as well. As I've shared with you, the past 3 years for me, like I've been going on this journey to be a visual artist. Doing animation,
Yeah.
and I started with dancing, and when I had to start drawing and like seriously training as a visual artist, that was like structure, like drawing every day, doing the exercises, especially when no one was looking. And I think that was something that as
Yeah.
a movement artist, it's that grind, that builds up the foundation for later on. But I think something that I also wanted to touch on, you kind of just inspired in my head, was you're talking about giving yourself time to explore. And I think that in psychology, or even just like child psychology, they talk about how, kids should have, or it's like recommended, that kids should have some like free play, like time that's like unstructured. They can go outside, they can do whatever, and that kind of builds their imagination and their communication skills. And I think that that's something that as adults, I think we kind of lose. When we're in our normal routine, because we're worrying about our jobs, we're worrying about performing, to meet some kind of standard. And like now, we still may be doing that, but there's actually a lot more time to just explore and like without consequence. And I think that that's actually something, if I were thinking about like the dance community and like creativity, I think that's something where a lot of people like yourself, I think, are going to take advantage of this time to really push yourselves and push different art forms further. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a tough balance sometimes too, when you have so much time. Like we're so used to having no time that
mhm,
like having no time is, or having all the time in the world basically, is it
mhm,
feels sometimes there's no guide, and that can be a struggle for a lot of people. So that's why that calendar comes into play a lot. And then
mhm.
once you start to get into the habit, it just becomes like a routine. And then at the end, you realize you've accomplished a lot. And yeah, it's tough. Like what you did with visual art, it's like there's days where it just doesn't, you don't want to do it, but you
Yeah,
show up and you
right.
you try, you keep trying, and you give yourself like little stuff to work on. So for example, when I say like 20 minutes of house dance, i I write the steps, like what, it's crazy. So my attention span is really bad. So like what I do is I take a 20-minute timer. So I put 20 minutes on a timer, and it dings every minute. So I'll do one step for 1 minute, and then the ding goes, and I'll do another step. So I'll have a
Mhm,
SoundCloud, like Coplo's been putting out these really dope mixes of house music, and then I'll do 20 minutes, and I'll put that 1 minute timer. So each minute I'm doing a new step, and then so it's like these small goals within a bigger time slot. know? So it's not just like, okay, 20 minutes of house, go around, go in the back and jump around. It's like, no, be intentional. And that ding when it happens, because your mind will wander, but when that thing dings, it's like, okay, reset, you know?
No, that's good. No, and I love like how detailed you are about just inviting us into your process, because I think that will also be inspiring to other people. And so thank you for just like sharing that and just being very transparent about it. So as we talked, as we discussed earlier, tonight's just a brief interview. So I definitely want to wrap us up in a minute or so. But I guess ending on like a hopeful note. You know, you talked earlier about you can't wait until we all come back together. You know, we're in the cipher again. What are some things that maybe you're looking forward to using this time to help the community connect again? I mean, obviously, I think you're doing a lot of work with like live streaming, getting people's stories and information out. What are some things that you're working on, you know, that are helping to bring people together?
I think, you know, I've been trying to put more content out on YouTube and Instagram and that sort of stuff. And with the Instagram lives, you know, for me, I'm taking the Instagram lives and I'm putting them on YouTube. But for me, it's really about just documenting, like my friends, you know, documenting not just friends, but also like resources I feel that I wish I could share with everybody, you know. Like I have a lot of these conversations already, and I walk away just feeling so enriched, and I'm just like, man, I wish I could have recorded that. And now it's like, oh, this is like a perfect opportunity to just like, since everybody's at home and got time, it seems it's like, you know, I don't really have much competition, you know, for other people's time. So it's a perfect opportunity to connect with these people from around the world and just get perspectives, you know, have conversations and, you know, inspire each other in these times, because those conversations, as much as they are to document, they are also just keeping me sane and motivated during my daily practices. So that's really what I'm working on now. And then
That's
also
cool.
just the dance stuff that like I'm really trying to build my craft even better, you know, than it was, so that when I come out of this space, I'll have some stories to share, and I'll have some ideas and techniques that maybe can help people in their journey.
That's cool. No, that's really inspiring and really encouraging. And I think that's something I appreciate about my time being a dancer and interacting with you and being in community, is that I think dancers were always like creatively problem solving. You know, we're moving forward even when we encounter these challenges. And this is a huge challenge, you know, for the entire world, you know, with COVID-19. But before we sign off, where can people find you online? You know, what's the contact info and everything?
Yeah. So you can find me at DSouL. That's on Instagram. It's DSOU1 instead of the L. And then on YouTube, you can type in DSouL and it'll pop up as well. And yeah, you can find me on your local street corner, just getting down. The Monrovia Street Fair. You know, when it opens back up, I'll be out there roboting. And if I'm not there, you can follow me on Instagram, and I'll be posting there. So
That's great. That's great. I'm sure people will come out and check you out and support.
yeah, for sure.
So, Diesel, we're gonna sign off right now, but I'm gonna video call you right after. I just want to debrief really quick, if that's cool.
Okay.
Just for a second.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Cool. All right. So everyone, thanks for coming on. Diesel, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk later. Have a good night.
All right. Stay well, y'all.
Yeah.
Peace.
Bye-bye.